That's a certified sweet ride. Let me send him a message. Hey, is this still available?
Yes. Are you interested?
Legend has it, they're still waiting for a response.
Oh. Hey everyone, welcome back to Trunk Talk. My name is Charlotte.
And I'm Gabi.
And this is the podcast where we talk about everything in the automotive industry, and we do it in the back of a trunk.
Everything.
What are we sitting in today?
Today we're sitting in the back of a 2025 Kia Sorento X Pro.
Wow, nice and new. Now, for today's episode, I know the past couple ones have been a lot more technical, so it may not appeal to everyone, but this one is going to be for everyone, because this is something you're more than likely going to come across.
This
and
is for
that
the whole family.
Is tackling
trade-ins.
Woo!
How trade-ins are assessed, the value, how you can get more for your trade, maybe, depending on what it is. If you should sell privately.
Oh.
Why you shouldn't sell privately.
Oh.
When making a trade maybe doesn't work. And what actually happens when the dealership takes your keys and assesses your car. We got all the secrets in today's episode.
And more.
So,
okay, what's a trade-in?
A trade-in,
How does that work?
it can be a lot of things. So, Charlotte, I just want to actually give a disclaimer first.
Oh.
So, Charlotte and I, we work at a dealership, and you may be thinking, wow, this is going to be a really biased podcast. And the answer is
not.
we promise you guys, it is absolutely not. Obviously, we do have the insight of what happens at a dealership, but we're not afraid to tell you the truth because it's not exactly a secret, you know what I mean? Everyone knows the dealership is going to try to make a profit.
It's a business.
It is a business. That's how we pay our employees.
If any business did not do that, they're not a good business.
They're not a good business. But we're also going to give you the real benefits as to how you can do better for your trade-in, and obviously how you can negotiate a little bit too.
Yeah.
We'll also talk about how the trade-in actually works.
Yeah.
So, like I mentioned earlier, so you know when your salesperson's taking a look at your vehicle, what they're actually looking for, and how you can make sure it's top-notch for when you show up to the store. Also, when you are selling privately, things to look out for, because there's a lot of scammers out there, and a lot of lowballers. And we know that because we are them.
We are Facebook Marketplace fiends.
Absolutely.
If you ever see our names pop up, run, block us.
So, Charlotte, should we start off with what trading in is and what happens when you trade in?
Yeah, definitely.
So, trading in at a dealership can be one of two things. You can either sell your car straight up to them, so you're not buying anything from them, you are just selling your vehicle, they'll cut you a check, and then you're done. Or you can trade in against a new vehicle. I say new, but it could be a used car.
New
just something
or new
different.
to you.
Yeah, something different. So you can do this at a new car dealership, used car dealership, even most corner lots, they accept trade-ins, right?
Yeah.
So if someone is trading in their vehicle to me, I'm their salesperson, what I will do is I will grab their keys and I will take a look at the vehicle. The vehicle, I'm going to check the paint first. So I have a paint thickness reader, and it allows me to read exactly the millimeters, the depth of the paint. Now, you may be thinking, why? And the answer to that is, if you did any sort of shady backyard paint work, or maybe you got in an accident and it didn't go through insurance, and you got your friend to do some body work and
The boys in the backyard. The backyard chop shop.
Yeah, whoever was the cheapest to do some creative paintwork on your vehicle, this is going to allow me to see that. So even if it's good to the eye, it's not good to the paint reader, and we'll be able to see, hey, your front, your hood, it doesn't match the rest of the car, what happened over there? And then usually the customer will fess up, you know what I mean? But most customers are fine, and they will straight up tell us, hey, there's been an accident, or hey, I had to get this replaced, that's no problem. So we do that first. Then we check around for the tires. Now the tires, if they're on their wear bar, it's time for new tires. And as a dealership, that is going to be a cost to us because we are always selling our vehicle safetied, right?
Yep.
So we have to make sure it's up to par and ready to be driven on the road. We do not want to sell a vehicle that we are not confident in, that we know is going to come back in a week with problems.
Definitely.
So new tires is a thing that we might have to do. So make sure your tires are okay, or straight up tell your person
it needs new tires.
It needs new tires. Well, also, this is more specifically for certain types of vehicles. So some cars have running boards, and this has been a major nightmare for us in the past because they were so expensive to fix.
Yeah.
We want to make sure any sort of moving mechanism works on the vehicle. So whether it's a power lift gate, running boards, maybe a slow close tailgate on a pickup truck, that kind of thing.
Even the hood.
Yeah.
The hood will open if it's a remote release.
Absolutely, yeah. Power folding mirrors. We want to make sure any of those things that are very, very costly is working. Just so we know ahead of time before we put a high number on that trade-in, right? We're also going to check things like the scent. So when we hop inside, if it's a cigarette car, guys, I can't tell you how hard it is to get the smell of cigarettes out of a vehicle, especially if it's a vehicle that's been driven for years with someone smoking in it. Not just a one-time thing. That stuff stays in your vehicle. It's in the seats. It's in the headliner. It's everywhere. It's in the cabin air filter.
Like you can ionize it. You can do a chlorine bomb, but like there's always going to be some type of residue. It's probably one of the most difficult things to get out.
Absolutely.
And some people don't care. But being on the lot, like, it's something that we definitely notice.
Absolutely. And a lot of people aren't going to, a lot of people, if they're not a smoker themselves, it's a deal breaker for them, because it is a very strong scent, right? Same thing with dogs. If you have dogs and maybe you take them to the beach or the lake and they're in your car a lot, that can really stink up a vehicle too. It's not as permanent as cigarettes, I will say, but it
that
definitely...
mustiness. I will say one of the first things that we do pretty much is when we take in a vehicle is replace all the filters in it.
Oh yeah. Cabin air filters, they're gone. They're changed. We also ionize a lot of vehicles, not just cigarette vehicles. Another thing we check is the windshield. Any sort of cracks or chips, obviously we have to replace that. It's a part of safety. Some vehicles have very, very expensive windshields, especially vans. Yeah, or if it's something with a heated windshield, very, very expensive. So that is a cost that we want to know about before we put a number on your vehicle. We always like to ask about the maintenance. Now, if it's someone, Charlotte will talk about this later, but if it's a customer that we know and we've seen in our service area, we know they maintain their vehicles. But if you're just someone off the street that we've never met before, it's good to know that you regularly do your maintenance. We also do a Carfax. So Carfax, everyone knows what this is. It gives you your history. If it's an actively stolen vehicle, we definitely don't want one of those. If it's a rebuilt title, it also displays some service history. I will say, don't be afraid if you're looking at a vehicle that doesn't have a lot of service history in the Carfax, because not everyone reports to Carfax. Not everyone's good about that. And some people, again, they do their maintenance on their own. They still have all the documentation for it. It's just not reported. So that doesn't mean a vehicle
it shouldn't be your make or break.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see, also OBD. So if your vehicle has a check engine light and you go to clear it before your trade-in appraisal, we can still see that it has a check engine light because we do scan for codes. And then we also, especially if it's a vehicle maybe 4 or 5 years older or high mileage, we'll drive it around just to make sure your transmission's shifting okay, there's no weird clunks, vibrations, the brakes are okay, that kind of thing. So typically we usually ask first, not usually, we do ask first, hey, is it okay if we drive around the lot, give it a couple breaks just to make sure the vehicle is driving smoothly. And then of course, obviously if we hear anything strange, we make note of that. So that's what we typically do for a trade evaluation. But what happens when we actually put a number on it? What the market, where are we getting this number from?
So that is a good idea. So there's a lot of things, of course, that you can do, which Gabby talked about, to help with your trade-in value. You know, things like keeping track of your maintenance records. If you bring them, that's great. If you've got 2 sets of keys, fantastic. You've got your owner's manuals, all of your manuals, stuff like that. That is all really awesome stuff that is gonna ultimately help you with your trade-in value.
I should say bonus points if you clean your car beforehand.
That is literally what I wrote down. I was like, clean your dang car.
Yes.
If your car is clean, it's gonna look a lot more appealing. It's the same way where if you looked at a car on the lot, if you see one that's clean versus one that's dirty, you're gonna be like, wow, that one looks a lot better. That's just common sense. Do that for the dealer too, because essentially you're doing the reverse process. You're making a case for your car and trying to justify the price point that you want for it. Now, price point.
No, the bad stuff.
So Gabby talked about the fact that, like, the reason we take in trade vehicles is it's not just to give you a tax break, although that is a huge, huge benefit and a huge advantage to trading in your vehicle to a dealer, but also, you know, it's a product for us to sell. It's a good way to acquire vehicles and then, of course, to make a profit. Now, when we take in a vehicle, we're not just putting it straight on the curb, putting it on a price, you know, with say like $5,000 markup or anything along those lines. We got to take it in. We go and take it through the shop.
Wait, there's a process?
There's a process. Believe it or not, there is a process. And on average, what our store costs to refurbish? Recondition, that's what I'm looking for. Like, I know refurbish is the wrong word. Is we're spending around, you know, $1,500 to $2,000 per vehicle to basically get it safety certified, to get it lot ready. And on top of that, also, we've got to clean up the vehicle and get it looking nice too. So all of that kind of goes into the process of going and putting the vehicle out, and that's why they're going to ask all these questions and take a look, because they want to know, okay, how much reconditioning am I going to have to do to this vehicle?
What exactly are we getting into?
What are we getting into? Because if I'm being honest, we have had vehicles where we've taken them in at a really high price point, they ended up needing a lot more work, and all of a sudden we're $7,000
Down
in the
to it.
hole.
Yeah.
And I didn't just pull that number out of a hat. It's actually happened.
Funny enough, there's some manufacturers that we're not allowed to buy anymore. So if you have a BMW, an Audi, or a Mercedes you want to trade in at our dealership, forget about it.
We're probably going to tell you no. And it's for reasons like that.
Yes.
And then there's some other vehicles that we've taken and we've literally made like $50. Used cars, there is a potential to have a higher profit margin, specifically compared to new cars. With our new cars, there is not a lot of profit margin. There's not a lot of room for negotiation. And then used cars, it can really, really differ. But one of the big contributing factors to putting a number on your vehicle specifically has to do with something called market day supply. And this is pretty general. This is pretty basic economics. It's following along with the principle of supply and demand. I know people love economics. I can't believe I just did that. But
wait, this sounds really boring. Tell me why I can't get $5,000 more for my trade.
so the thing is with your vehicle is the dealership wants to know how quick they're going to be able to sell your car, because if it is sitting on the lot, it's losing money.
We're paying for it.
We're paying for it. Now, in an ideal world, a dealer is going to run with a 30-day supply, meaning they are doing a full inventory turnover every 30 days or once a month. Now, realistically, that doesn't happen. Usually it's like 45 days, maybe it's 60 days, depending on the vehicle. Sometimes it's 90 days. We don't want that to happen, which is why we look at market day supply, because it's going to give us all of the data to tell us how many vehicles like this vehicle are around, are in the province, are in the city, the mileage, the color, the trim, and from there you're going to know how desirable this vehicle is, how quickly it's selling, what it's not selling for, do you need to do a price reduction, all of that type of info to price it accordingly. And there is software for that. What do we use now?
We use AccuTrade right now, so it gives you everything based in Canada. Obviously, what's more relevant for us is in Ontario, but you'd be surprised with there, especially if it's a very niche type car, there's people outside of the province that would buy it, so it checks everything,
definitely.
right? Just to make sure it's relevant.
So basically what market day supply is it's a calculation. It takes, and I wrote it down here, the total number of available units, and it's going to divide it by the average daily sales number from the past 45 days. So it is a calculation, it is an actual metric by which we do it, and that is definitely one of the external factors that contribute to your trade value. Another huge thing, like I said, it's economics. There's going to be other things that are outside influences that aren't about how you take care of your vehicle. Things, again, supply and demand, fuel prices are going to be a huge contributing factor, especially now with fuel prices being so high. People are definitely driven more towards the plug-in hybrid or the hybrid community or straight electric than they are with a bigger V6, gas guzzling SUV. V8, something a lot bigger than what we see with our traditional 4-cylinders too. Also, if we're going through a recession, people aren't buying new or used vehicles. They're typically going to hang on to their vehicle, which means there's not going to be a huge demand for trade-in vehicles. So your dealer probably isn't going to want them as much because, well, no one's really buying them. But of course, the opposite is going to be true when the economy is strong, when things are moving along pretty steadily. Also, seasonality is a big thing, so try to be strategic with your trade-in. In the winter, people are going to be driven a lot more towards all-wheel drive, SUVs, heated steering wheel. Whereas in the summer, spring months, people are going to be a lot more looking for soft top, convertible. Let's have some fun. So you kind of want to be strategic if time allows and if your budget allows with your trade-in too. So that's kind of what I have written down. What would you say, like, when shouldn't you trade in your vehicle?
When you should not trade in your vehicle, and when you should probably resort to something like good old Marketplace, Kijiji, or Auto Trader as a private sale. If you're working with a sweet ride. So if your car is not good, it's not a good one.
If it's bad.
If it's a POS, for lack of better terms, you might want to sell it privately, because if you came to a dealership, they would probably say,
how much gas is in it?
How much gas is in it? How much does it weigh? Are there any
gold bricks in the trunk?
And your value would probably be whatever we would scrap it for, because realistically, that's not a vehicle that we're going to put money into to recondition to sell on our used car lot. And I know some dealerships do sell as-is cars, and that's totally okay, but our dealership does not.
Yeah, we Yeah.
All of
really
our
try not
vehicles
to.
are typically safetied,
Mhm.
and we don't want to put money into a vehicle like that, which we're probably sure is going to give us problems in the very, very near future.
Yeah.
So that is definitely somewhere where you would benefit selling privately. You can sell it as is. That's one of the hugest benefits of selling privately is you don't have to sell it safetied. A lot of people will want it to be, but you don't have to.
Like you can get more if you sell it privately
As a
with the
safety?
safety.
Yeah.
But with some of those vehicles, like just take what you can get.
If you have a car that's typically like really just a part out car, obviously you're gonna sell it privately. If we don't want it, we're not gonna
We'll
do
take
it.
the cat converter though.
Yeah, we'll cut off the cat, and that's
what we want.
That's it. Project cars also,
Yeah.
so that kind of goes with it's not exactly part out, but something that's a little bit more niche, something a little bit more collector's type, work type. It's a vehicle that it could be running, it could not be, and there's definitely value in it, but it doesn't have value to a dealership.
Because remember, dealers don't want their cars to sit on the lot.
Yeah. So if there's a very, very niche market buyer for your vehicle, a dealer is not going to give you the value that you could get selling it privately, even if selling it privately is going to take you a while.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with modified cars, and that kind of fits into the niche market. My mom isn't going to browse Marketplace for a modded car, but Jimmy might. Jimmy might love your Veloster. So
I love your Veloster.
it really depends on your type of car. So again, niche can mean so many things. It could mean a Pontiac Aztek. That means nothing to a dealership, but it could mean a lot to a big Breaking Bad fan that's been dreaming of someday owning their own Pontiac Aztek. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's certain cars that
It's
just,
me.
and same thing with Toyotas.
Mhm.
Toyotas are absolutely crazy. I'm seeing 20-year-old Toyotas with crazy, crazy mileage selling for the price of a new Kia Forte. It is redonkulous.
Mhm.
But if you were to trade that vehicle in at our dealership, we could not give you that kind of money.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say selling for, they're listed for. But those listings are 5 months old.
Yeah. I was gonna say listing price and selling price are very different things.
But that's actually should probably move us to our next talking point.
yeah, what's that?
Our next talking point is what I see a lot as a salesperson in the past. Customers would say, "Oh, Kelly's Blue Book says my car is worth between this and this." They come in and the car on paper sounds phenomenal. For example, let's say it's a 2020 Honda Odyssey, so a van. And at the time, vans were a hot
thing to get.
yeah, because you couldn't get them new. There was a huge wait time to get them new.
Mhm.
So the Sienna, the Carnival, Sedonas, everything was priced very high. So on paper, this Odyssey sounds great. It's a 2020, so it's fairly new. It's got good mileage. Let's say it's got 30,000 kilometers on it. Car comes in, we go to appraise it, seats are all ripped up.
Mhm.
There's damage everywhere. There's clunks and dents and door dings, and the car's in rough shape for a fairly new vehicle. Kelly's Blue Book is giving them whatever amount of dollars. We cannot give them that kind of money. We gotta put a lot of work into this car. So what a car sounds like it's worth on paper versus reality can be very, very different. And obviously it's up to you and you knowing the status and condition of your vehicle to kind of determine, hey, can I really get this?
Yeah.
So it's always good to be realistic about your approach.
Yeah. Be realistic, and like Gabby said, there's a lot of good sites that you can look at. Like you can look at Edmunds, you can look at TradeRev. TradeRev is actually pretty good because you can see something a little bit more realistic too, something more comparable to the interior, the mileage than what you've got. Kelly's Blue Book too. Now, of course, all of these sites use different algorithms, so you may get a couple bit of differing opinions, but
Yeah.
generally you'll be able to land somewhere.
Yeah. Should we go over pros and cons of each?
Yeah.
Do you want to do pros of private or new? Private or trade-in, sorry.
I'll do trade-in.
Okay.
Let's see that.
What are the pros?
So pros of trading in is if you are purchasing another car from the dealer is you get a tax benefit, meaning if I am buying a car for, my new car is $20,000, my trade-in is $10,000 is what the dealership is going to give me. I'm only paying tax on $10,000, not that full 20, which is absolutely phenomenal. I can never say that word.
Phenomenal.
Which is great. And really can help you, especially when you are upgrading to something a little bit newer. Obviously, a benefit of trading in your vehicle too is you can basically hand over the keys and you can walk away, which is nice. Also, it is a safe environment to do so.
Maybe depending on the dealership.
Depending on the dealership. At least here, we would love to have your trade-in, so come on in anytime that you want.
Yeah.
I think those are probably the big ones.
I think safe environment is definitely an emphasis, especially right now.
Yeah.
If you guys are in Ontario, you might have seen the news story about a woman stealing a man's Porsche Cayenne from his driveway and running him over.
Yeah.
So that is a Facebook Marketplace private sale special. There is the added kind of risk of your safety when you are selling privately, and there's been many stories about this, not just car related, just anything,
in general.
Yeah, anything you're selling privately or picking up privately, just always obviously take that extra precaution.
Yeah, let someone know where you're going, bring someone with you.
Yeah, you don't know who you're running into. So I'm kind of going into the cons before I'm going into the pros.
Oh yeah, what are the pros?
I'll talk about the pros in a second. Another thing with cons, and I've seen this so many times, and whether it's with vehicles or selling furniture, you run into, hey, is this available? And then never responding to you again. You run into the people saying, I'll give you $5,000 less and make sure you bring it by with a full tank of gas. The lowballers are crazy over there.
Yeah.
I mean, the dealership is going to lowball you a little bit so the dealer can make a bit of a profit after they recondition it, but dang, they're not.
You don't need to give them a full tank of gas.
Yeah, you don't need to give them a full tank of gas. So that is a big one for sure. The people that, I know what I got. No lowballers, I know what I got.
I'm like, listen, it ain't that good.
There's definitely more room for negotiation on Marketplace, but if you're the one selling the vehicle, you're gonna run into so many people just giving absolutely ridiculous lowball offers. There's also a lot of people that are like, I'll trade you my boat. And
like,
you're living in
I
an
don't want that.
Yeah, you're living in an apartment building. Where am I gonna
that?
put this boat? So it's just a little bit of ridiculousness, to be honest.
Of a silly behavior.
You run into quite a few interesting people when you do list anything on Marketplace or Kijiji.
Yeah.
Those are all I can really think of for cons.
Or the pros.
Oh, hold on. Wait, I got a couple more cons before we get into the pros. And guys, keep in mind, I love Marketplace. I love this so much. You are responsible for the listing.
Yeah.
So if you know there's something wrong with your vehicle, please be honest about what you can. For whatever you know about your car, please be sure to include it. If you have anything special about the vehicle, include that. You're responsible for the pictures, the videos, making it look okay.
Also, you are responsible for providing a used vehicle
Yes.
information package.
Absolutely.
So you have to, like, it's gonna basically show if there's any liens or anything like that on the vehicle. Like, you're still responsible for all of this stuff too.
And that's actually another great point. If you are selling your vehicle privately, you have to make sure that lien's paid out. If you are trading it in at a dealership, you can roll your lien over into your next purchase if you are buying a vehicle there. So that's kind of a nice
Or
thing.
if it's positive, like if it's equity, you can have the dealership do a lien payout for you too.
Yeah.
If not, don't worry. If you need some help, I'll take care of you.
We will take care
I'll
of
help you.
That's for sure. Another pros of selling privately, obviously you can list it for whatever you want. Again, doesn't mean you'll sell it for that, but you can list it for whatever you want. You have total control of, I guess, not kind of who you sell it to, but who you're selling it to. There's not much else.
I think those are the pros. Like, sometimes you can get a little bit more than you would for the dealer, depending on the vehicle.
Absolutely.
So.
You run into a little bit of chaos, but depending on, again, like
It could be worth it.
Yeah, it could totally be worth it. It's just, again, if your time is worth the money, that's up to you to
That's
decide.
exactly what I was gonna say is when you compare these two things is just like take a look at your situation, do your research, because the facts are your friends and they're gonna help you make the best and most informed decision. And at the end of the day, when you're evaluating it between private sale or trade-in, I definitely see that there's a lot more convenience for doing the trade-in because you're just able to give the keys and walk away, where there's a lot more work with a private sale, but sometimes you can get a lot more reward and sometimes not. So just evaluate if you want to basically pay in convenience or if you want to pay in time, kind of.
I will say, especially if the vehicle that you're selling, let's say you're doing it to a dealership, so it's a trade-in. If you're purchasing a new vehicle, there's a little bit more room for negotiation.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely a bit more room for negotiation. You can always try to negotiate your trade. If you don't like what the dealer is giving you, you can say, oh, by the way, I've done this to the vehicle, I have winter tires. Just make sure you prove your vehicle's worth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're making a case for your vehicle the same way we're making a case against your vehicle. No,
Against
just kidding.
But in a way. Now, do we have a fun fact for this episode?
Fun fact, I had friends who bought a car that was a remanufactured vehicle and it wasn't disclosed to them.
Yes.
And that's bad.
That's not a
They
good
did not
one.
buy it from us.
No.
That's my fun fact.
But they bought their new vehicle from us and they love it.
And they love it.
They do love
treat
it.
them very well.
My fun fact was, back in my sales day, I had a customer who was looking to sell his Jeep. I believe it was a 2018 or 2019, and it was a Wrangler. It was pretty modified, and by modified I mean it's just the wheels. It was a good looking Jeep. Anyway, he wants an absurd amount of money for it. We're like, sir, we're gonna need some more information. Can you please give us the VIN? We'll run a Carfax. $30,000 hit on it. $30,000 hit on it. Not $3,000. $30,000 hit on it. This man wanted almost $50,000 for his Jeep.
Yeah.
I told him,
Hits
no.
are gonna make a big difference.
A hit like that makes
hit
a
like that.
huge difference. Huge difference. And it was structural. So,
Jaw drop.
some cars we just don't want.
That's one of them.
And that is one of them. So again, always be honest with your vehicle's history. I mean, when it comes to accidents, if it's on a Carfax, we're gonna find out anyway. But
Still, just be honest. And I think if you're straight up, like, I know for us, like, we're gonna definitely be more inclined to give you a straight, honest, fair, and reasonable price.
yeah,
So.
we're fair as long as you're reasonable. She
always
always says that. But I hope this podcast episode kind of gave you a little bit more insight as to what happens at the dealership. And I'm hoping it doesn't come off as biased, because guys,
No.
remember, we love Marketplace.
We think,
live there.
Like I said, just make an informed decision that's right for you and do with that what you will. But
Yes.
we've definitely seen some trade-in horror stories, so let us know if you've had it.
We've also seen some people that made more on their trade than what they paid for their vehicle.
Yeah.
So that was a different time, though, mind
That
you.
was COVID. See, guys, economics.
Economics.
Plays a role. All right, on that
Sometimes
note.
they work.
On that note, we'll wrap this up. Bye, guys.
See ya.